The massive Imperial warship appeared on Earth's long-range scanners like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. Admiral James Walker stood at the command center of Orbital Defense Station Alpha, his weathered face reflected in the reinforced glass as he watched more enemy ships emerge from hyperspace. Each Imperial vessel was bigger than anything humanity had ever built, their hulls gleaming with an alien metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Status report," Walker commanded, his voice steady despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on his shoulders. "Sir, we're counting 37 capital ships and over 200 support vessels," replied the sensor officer, her fingers dancing across the holographic display. "They're maintaining position just beyond Mars orbit." Walker nodded slowly. The Empire wasn't taking any chances. They had brought enough firepower to glass a dozen planets. To them, Earth was just another conquest, another dot on their star maps to be colored in Imperial purple. The communication officer's console lit up with an incoming transmission. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. It's being transmitted worldwide." "Put it through," Walker ordered, straightening his uniform. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the towering figure of Imperial High Commander Dex. His metallic armor gleamed, and his 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of contempt in Imperial body language. "People of Earth," the alien's voice boomed through the speakers, automatically translated into every Earth language. "Your isolation ends today. The Galactic Empire brings order to chaos, unity to division, and progress to stagnation. Your technology is primitive, your military force insignificant, and your continued independence is an oversight we have come to correct." Walker's jaw tightened as the alien continued. "Surrender now, and your species will be permitted to serve the Empire as productive citizens. Resist, and we will reduce your civilization to atoms. You have 6 Earth hours to deliver your unconditional surrender. Choose wisely." The transmission cut off, leaving the command center in tense silence. Walker turned to his staff, each face showing a mix of fear and determination. They all knew this day was coming. For 20 years, they had prepared, planned, and built in secret. The Empire thought they were dealing with a primitive species that had barely reached its own moon. They had no idea what humanity had in store for them. "Send word to all stations," Walker ordered. "Initialize Defense Protocol Phoenix, and get me a secure line to Commander Stone at Sarah's base." As his orders were carried out, Walker moved to the tactical display. The Imperial fleet's formation was perfect, too perfect. Their ships were arranged in textbook battle lines, showing both their military prowess and their absolute confidence in victory. That same confidence had led them to miss the subtle signs of humanity's preparations. They hadn't questioned why Earth's space traffic was so limited. They hadn't wondered about the unusual amount of mining activity in the asteroid belt. They hadn't noticed the quantum fluctuations that might have revealed humanity's hidden fleet. Their arrogance had made them blind. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving responses from all hidden bases. They're ready to proceed on your command." Walker allowed himself a small smile. The Empire thought they were offering humanity a choice between submission and extinction. They were wrong. Humanity had created a third option, carefully crafted through decades of secret preparation and sacrifice. "Send this message to all Earth Defense Forces," Walker said, his voice carrying the weight of history. "The time has come. Remember your training. Remember what we fight for. The Empire expects us to be primitive, disorganized, and afraid. Let's show them how wrong they are." The next 6 hours would change the galaxy forever. Humanity's greatest test was about to begin, and despite the overwhelming odds, Walker felt a surge of pride. The Empire had no idea what they had just started, or how it would end. Deep within the asteroid belt, hidden inside a hollowed-out space rock twice the size of Manhattan, Commander Lisa Stone walked through the massive underground hangar of Project Phoenix. Above her, stretching for miles in the low gravity, hung humanity's secret weapon, a fleet of warships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Status report on the quantum weapons system," she asked, her boots making soft clicking sounds against the metal walkway. "All systems are green, Commander," replied Chief Engineer Mike Rogers, falling into step beside her. "The Empire's going to be in for one hell of a surprise when they realize their shields might as well be tissue paper against our tech." Stone nodded, her eyes fixed on the nearest ship. The vessel's hull gleamed with a dark, almost fluid-like coating, reverse-engineered from a crashed Imperial scout ship 15 years ago. But it was what lay beneath that coating that made these ships special. "Show me the latest test results," she ordered, stepping into the control room that overlooked the hangar. Holographic displays sprang to life around her, showing performance data from their last simulation. The quantum weapons they had developed were elegantly simple in concept. The Empire's shields operated on a fixed set of frequencies, making them nearly impenetrable to conventional weapons. But Stone's team had discovered a way to phase shift their energy beams to match the exact inverse of those frequencies. The result? The shields wouldn't just fail, they would collapse catastrophically. "Message from Earth Defense Command," announced the communications officer. "Admiral Walker has initiated Protocol Phoenix. The Empire has made their move." Stone straightened up. This was the moment they had spent 20 years preparing for. Begin power-up sequences on all vessels. Launch crews to their stations. This is not a drill. The huge chamber erupted into activity. Lights blazed to life along the hulls of 50 warships. Engineering crews rushed to their posts, while pilots and gunners emerged from their ready rooms, all moving with practiced precision. "Commander," Mike called out, pointing to one of the displays. "Look at this." The Imperial fleets arranged themselves in a perfect siege formation around Earth. Classic triangle defense pattern. Stone smiled grimly. "They always follow their textbook. That's what happens when you spend 1,000 years winning. You stop innovating." She turned to address the command center crew. "That's our advantage, people. We might be younger, we might be fewer, but we've spent every day of the last 2 decades thinking about how to beat them." The deck hummed beneath their feet as the massive hangar doors began to open, revealing the star-filled void beyond. Stone moved to the main tactical display, watching as her fleet came fully online. Each ship in the Phoenix fleet represented humanity's greatest achievement. They were smaller than Imperial vessels, but far more maneuverable. Their weapons were fewer, but infinitely more precise. Most importantly, they carry humanity's fighting spirit, the determination to remain free, no matter the cost. "All ships report ready, Commander," announced the fleet coordinator. Stone opened a channel to all vessels. "This is Commander Stone. For 20 years we've trained in secret, preparing for this day. The Empire thinks they're dealing with a primitive species that barely understands space travel. They expect us to bow down or die fighting with obsolete weapons." She paused, looking at the faces of her crew. Instead, they're about to face the most advanced fleet ever built, crewed by the most determined fighters in the galaxy. She pressed a button, bringing up the tactical display of Earth and the Imperial fleet. "Launch sequence initiated. Remember your training. Remember what's at stake. The Empire's about to learn why you should never underestimate humanity." Stone out. One by one, the ships of the Phoenix fleet detached from their docking clamps. Like ancient predators emerging from their den, they moved silently into space, their dark hulls blending perfectly with the backdrop of asteroids and void. The hidden arsenal was about to be revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Imperial flagship Eternal Glory hung in space like a metal mountain, its massive hull casting a shadow across Earth's moon. On its bridge, Supreme Commander Dex watched the countdown timer with growing impatience. Humans had only 2 hours left to surrender, and still they had made no response. "Primitive species," he muttered, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "They probably can't even decide who should surrender on behalf of their divided world." The sensor officer suddenly straightened in his chair. "Supreme Commander, multiple objects approaching at high speed from the asteroid belt." Dex turned to the tactical display, mandibles clicking in amusement. Ah, so they choose to die fighting. Show me these primitive vessels. The display zoomed in on the approaching ships. They were smaller than Imperial vessels, their hulls dark and sleek. They moved in perfect formation, using Earth's gravity to accelerate at impossible speeds. Curious design, Dex noted, but no match for Imperial technology. Ray shields. Let them witness true power before we end this. The human fleet suddenly split into 3 groups, executing a maneuver that even Dex had to admit was impressive. They were using Earth's gravitational field like a slingshot, building up speed that would make them harder to target. A clever trick, Dex announced to his bridge crew. But our shields are impenetrable. Let them exhaust themselves against our defenses. He opened a channel to all Imperial ships. Hold position. Let them come to us. We will teach them the price of defiance. Admiral Walker's voice crackled across all frequencies. This is your only warning. Withdraw your forces immediately. Laughter erupted across the Imperial bridge. Dex stepped forward, ready to deliver a crushing response, when the sensor officer shouted in alarm. Energy spike. Unknown weapon signature. The first quantum beam struck the Eternal Glory shields like lightning striking a tree. For a split second, the mighty ship's defensive screen flared brilliant white. Then, impossibly, it collapsed. Impossible, Dex roared. Restore shields. But there was no time. The Phoenix fleet struck with surgical precision, their weapons finding vital points across the massive flagship's hull. Secondary explosions chained across the vessel's length as power conduits overloaded. Emergency power to engines, Dex screamed. Return fire. Launch all fighters. The space around Earth erupted into chaos. Imperial ships, their greatest defense neutralized, found themselves vulnerable for the first time in centuries. The Phoenix fleet moved like dancers through their formation, their quantum weapons cutting through the Empire's most powerful ships like paper. All ships concentrate fire on their largest vessel, Walker commanded from his station. Don't let them regroup. The Eternal Glory's hull buckled under the concentrated assault. Internal explosions lit up the massive ship from within, turning it into a miniature sun. Abandon ship, Dex ordered, his mighty voice now trembling. All hands to escape pods. The Imperial flagship's death throes lit up Earth's night sky like a new star being born. Escape pods streamed from its broken hull like seeds from a dying flower. The mighty vessel, pride of the Imperial fleet, broke apart in a spectacular series of explosions. Across the battlefield, Imperial captains watched in horror as their invincible flagship died. Their perfect formation began to break as ships attempted to adapt to this impossible situation. But the Phoenix fleet gave them no time to recover, no chance to develop new tactics. Push the advantage, Walker ordered. Don't let them recover their balance. The battle for Earth had begun, and humanity's first strike had just destroyed the most powerful warship in the galaxy. The Empire's aura of invincibility lay shattered among the debris of their flagship, and the real war was only beginning. Lieutenant Tom Reed's stealth ship drifted silently through space, its advanced cloaking system making it virtually invisible to Imperial sensors. The vessel was small, barely larger than an old Earth shuttle, but it carried something far more valuable than weapons: information. Movement at the edge of the system, whispered his sensor operator, Jane Miller. Big ones. Lots of them. Reed floated to the observation window, his experienced eyes scanning the void. In the distance, space itself seemed to ripple as massive Imperial reinforcements emerged from hyperspace. The Empire was angry, and they were bringing their full might to bear. Count them, Reed ordered, though he already knew it wouldn't be good news. 200 capital ships, 300. Still coming, Miller reported, her voice tense. They're deploying in attack formation Delta, much more aggressive than the first wave. Reed activated his secure communication link to Earth Command. Phoenix Nest. This is Shadow One. Be advised, we're looking at a force 5 times larger than the initial assault. They're not playing around anymore. The Imperial ships moved with cold precision, their formation optimized for maximum destruction. But something caught Reed's attention. Regular pulses of energy between the ships, almost like a heartbeat. "Jane, focus our scanners on those energy pulses. What are we looking at?" Miller adjusted their sensors, and complex data streams filled their screens. "It's their command and control system, sir. Some kind of quantum communication network. Every ship is linked, sharing targeting data, tactical updates, everything." Reed leaned closer to the display, a plan forming in his mind. "Look at the pattern. Everything flows through those larger ships in the rear, their communication hubs. The Empire's running their entire fleet like one giant computer network." "Isn't that good?" Miller asked. "Makes them more efficient, right?" Reed smiled grimly. "It also makes them vulnerable. One brain controlling thousands of ships. That's not strength. That's a weakness waiting to be exploited." Their ship's sensors suddenly blared a warning. An Imperial patrol was sweeping the area, using new search patterns designed to detect cloaked vessels. "They're adapting," Miller warned. "These scan patterns are different from anything we've seen before." Reed nodded. The Empire was learning, evolving its tactics after the devastating loss of their flagship. But they were still thinking like an empire, relying on central control, perfect coordination, and overwhelming force. "Send everything we've learned to command," Reed ordered, "especially the quantum communication data. Commander Stone needs to see this." As Miller transmitted their findings, the Imperial patrol drew closer. Their stealth ship's temperature began to rise as the cloaking system struggled to absorb the intense scanning beams. "Transmission complete," Miller reported. "But we got problems. 3 destroyers moving into scanning range. Our cloak won't fool them at this distance." Reed studied their tactical display. The patrol had them nearly surrounded, but they'd left one gap in their search pattern, probably because no sane pilot would try to squeeze through such a narrow space between enemy ships. "Plot a course between those destroyers," Reed commanded. "We'll ride their engine wake to mask our heat signature." Miller looked at him like he was crazy. "Sir, that gap is barely wider than our ship." "Then it's a good thing we're excellent pilots," Reed replied with a confident smile. "The Empire expects everyone to follow their rulebook. That's why they'll never see this coming." Their small ship turned silently, creeping toward the seemingly suicidal escape route. Above them, massive Imperial destroyers passed by, their crews never suspecting that the humans they hunted were hiding in plain sight. As they slipped past the patrol, Reed took one last look at the gathering Imperial armada. The Empire was preparing its counterstrike, bringing enough firepower to destroy a dozen worlds. But they had shown their hand, and their weakness. Now it was up to Earth's forces to use this information before the Empire could bring its full might to bear. Admiral Walker stood before a holographic display, showing thousands of Imperial ships arranged in perfect attack formations. Nearby, Commander Stone was making final adjustments to their battle plan based on Lieutenant Reed's intelligence. "Their entire network depends on these 7 communication hubs," Stone explained, highlighting several large ships at the rear of the Imperial fleet. "Take them out, and their perfect coordination falls apart." Walker nodded, studying the tactical overlay. "The Empire spent 1,000 years perfecting central control. They've forgotten how to think independently." He turned to face the assembled fleet commanders. "That's their weakness, and that's how we'll beat them." "Operation Thunderstrike is ready," Stone announced. "All ships have been equipped with the modified quantum disruptors. Once we take down their communication network, they won't be able to restore it." Walker opened a channel to all Earth forces. "All ships, battle stations. Execute Operation Thunderstrike on my mark." The Phoenix fleet moved into position, hidden behind Earth's moon. They had upgraded their ships with Stone's latest innovation, weapons that could not only bypass Imperial shields, but also scramble their quantum communications. "Imperial fleet is launching their attack," reported the sensor officer. "Multiple vectors, full spread. They're trying to overwhelm our defenses with pure numbers." Walker smiled grimly. "Just like we expected. All ships, execute Thunderstrike. Hit those communication hubs with everything we've got." The Phoenix fleet erupted from behind the moon, splitting into 7 battle groups. Each group targeted a different communication hub, moving with precision that matched the Empire's own. The Imperial fleet responded immediately, but their reaction was predictable, exactly as their combat doctrines dictated. They moved to protect their communication hubs with walls of battleships, just as they had done successfully for centuries. "They're following the playbook," Stone observed. "Executing standard defensive pattern Omega. Then let's show them something they've never seen before," Walker commanded. "All ships, initiate jump sequence Delta." The Phoenix fleet suddenly vanished, using their reverse-engineered jump drives in a way the Empire had never considered. Instead of long-distance travel, they made micro-jumps, teleporting between the gaps in the Imperial formation. Chaos erupted across the battlefield. Imperial ships, trained to fight in perfect coordination, found themselves firing at empty space as human vessels appeared and disappeared around them. The Phoenix fleet danced through their formation like ghosts, each jump bringing them closer to their targets. "First hub is down," shouted the tactical officer. "Second and third taking heavy damage." On the Imperial command ships, panic began to spread. For the first time in centuries, they faced an enemy that didn't fight according to any known doctrine. The humans seemed to be everywhere and nowhere, their attacks following no predictable pattern. Fourth hub destroyed. Fifth and sixth under attack. Walker watched as his plan unfolded. The Imperial fleet's movements were becoming sluggish, uncoordinated. Without their central communication network, each ship was forced to act independently, something they hadn't done in generations. "Final hub is targeted," Stone reported. "They're trying to route commands through secondary systems, but our disruptors are blocking every frequency they attempt." The last communication hub erupted in a spectacular explosion. Across the battlefield, Imperial ships began to drift out of formation, their perfect coordination shattered. Some continued to fight, while others hung motionless in space, their crews waiting for orders that would never come. "Send the message," Walker commanded. "To all Imperial ships. Your network is down. Your coordination is broken. Surrender now, or face destruction one ship at a time." The Empire's mighty armada, which had never known defeat, was now in disarray. Operation Thunderstrike had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes, turning the Empire's greatest strength into a crippling weakness. The tide of war had turned, and humanity's victory was now within reach. Captain Mark Thompson stood on the bridge of the Phoenix-class warship Defiant, watching as hundreds of ships gathered around his vessel. But unlike a week ago, not all of these ships were human. The fleet now included vessels from a dozen alien races, all former slaves of the Empire who had seized their chance at freedom. "The Blue Star People's ships are in position," reported his tactical officer. "Their energy weapons are perfectly compatible with our quantum targeting systems. The Rock Dwellers have also joined formation with their mining vessels. They've converted them into bombers." Thompson nodded, studying the massive Imperial shipyard that floated ahead of them in the Centauri system. It was one of the Empire's primary production facilities, churning out the warships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. Now it would become their next target. "All ships reporting ready, Captain," announced his communications officer. "The freed races are eager to begin." Thompson could understand their enthusiasm. Many of these species had suffered under Imperial rule for generations. Now they had a chance to strike back, and they were taking to human battle tactics with surprising skill. "The Empire's defenses are still in chaos," his second-in-command reported. "They haven't been able to restore their command network. Each base is fighting independently." That was the beauty of Commander Stone's quantum disruptors. They hadn't just knocked out the Empire's communications, they had prevented them from being restored. The mighty Imperial war machine was now divided into isolated pockets of resistance. "All ships, battle formations," Thompson ordered. "Remember the plan. The Empire built this facility to be invincible against a frontal assault, so we're not going to give them one. The combined fleet split into 3 groups, each adopting the fluid, unpredictable tactics that humans had perfected. The Empire had always relied on overwhelming force and perfect coordination. Without those advantages, their rigid tactics were becoming their downfall. "Blue starships, begin your attack run," Thompson commanded. "Rock dwellers, stand by to breach their outer defenses." The sleek ships of the Blue Star people, moving with incredible grace, launched the first strike. Their energy weapons, enhanced by human targeting systems, struck with devastating accuracy. Imperial gunners, trained to fight against traditional attacks, struggled to track the swift, irregular movement patterns. "Outer defenses are weakening," reported Tactical. "The rock dwellers' mining ships are in position." "Begin Phase 2, Thompson ordered. The converted mining vessels, their powerful drilling equipment modified into devastating weapons, tore into the shipyard's outer hull. They carved holes in defenses that had been designed to withstand traditional military weapons, creating gaps for the rest of the fleet to exploit. "Multiple reactor breaches detected in the shipyard," announced the sensor officer. "Their power grid is destabilizing." Thompson opened a channel to the Imperial facility. "Attention Imperial forces. Your shipyard is breached. Your reinforcements are cut off. Surrender now, and we'll guarantee your safety." The response came in the form of desperate counterattacks. Imperial ships launched themselves at the Allied fleet, fighting with the ferocity of cornered animals. But without central coordination, their attacks were disorganized and predictable. "They're not going to surrender," Thompson's second-in-command observed grimly. "Then we finish this," Thompson replied. "All ships, execute final attack pattern. Show them what happens when free people fight together." The combined fleet struck as one, human ships fighting alongside their alien allies in perfect synchronization. The shipyard's remaining defenses crumbled under the onslaught. Explosions chained through the massive facility as its reactors went critical. As the Imperial shipyard died, Thompson watched the Allied ships regrouping around his vessel. The Empire had spent centuries keeping these races divided, never imagining they would unite under the banner of human freedom. Now that unity would be their downfall. The breaking point had been reached. The Empire was falling apart, one base at a time, and the galaxy was changing forever. The Imperial throne world of Imperius Prime hung in space like a jewel, its surface covered in city-sized palaces and monuments to the Empire's 1,000-year reign. Now those same monuments were about to witness the Empire's last stand. Admiral Walker stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Human ships flew alongside vessels from over 50 freed worlds, their combined force stretching as far as the eye could see. "The Emperor has sealed himself in the planetary defense fortress," Commander Stone reported, studying the tactical displays. "They've activated every weapon system they have. The entire planet is basically one giant gun." Walker nodded grimly. "Send the message." The communication officer opened a channel to the throne world. Walker's voice echoed across space, broadcast in every language of the assembled fleet. "This is Admiral James Walker of Earth. Your empire is finished. Your fleets are scattered. Your slave worlds have risen against you. Surrender now and face justice for your crimes. Refuse, and we will show you the same mercy you showed to countless worlds during your reign." The Emperor himself appeared on the main screen, his 4 eyes blazing with fury. He wore ceremonial battle armor that had never seen real combat, decorated with jewels from 100 conquered worlds. "You dare," the Emperor's voice boomed. "You dare to threaten us. We have ruled the stars for 1,000 years. We cannot be defeated by primitives and slaves." Walker's expression remained calm. "Look around you, Emperor. Your perfect order has crumbled. Your rigid tactics have failed. You ruled through fear and control, and now you're losing to races that fight for freedom. This is your last chance." "Never," the Emperor roared. "All forces, attack. Show these insects the true might of the Empire. The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. The Emperor's remaining forces fought with desperate fury, launching waves of ships against the Allied fleet. But they were still fighting according to their ancient doctrines, still unable to adapt to humanity's fluid tactics. All ships, execute attack pattern Phoenix, Walker commanded. Show them what united free worlds can do. The Allied fleet moved like a living thing, shifting and flowing around Imperial defenses. Human quantum weapons struck in perfect coordination with alien energy beams. Former slave races, now fighting alongside their liberators, turned centuries of bitter knowledge against their former masters. The Emperor's fortress began to crack under the assault. Its mighty shields, designed to withstand any conventional attack, failed against the combined technologies of 50 races guided by human innovation. Their main reactor is critical, Stone announced. The fortress is falling. Through the chaos of battle, Walker opened one final channel to the Emperor. Surrender. End this now. The Emperor's response was a burst of incoherent rage, cut short as his transmission center exploded. The fortress that had stood for 1,000 years began to crumble, its destruction visible from space. As the dust settled, Walker looked out at the assembled fleet of free worlds. Humanity had done more than just defeat an empire. They had united the galaxy in a way the Empire never could. Send word to all ships, Walker ordered. The war is over. The Empire has fallen. Cheers erupted across every channel in dozens of languages. Ships from different worlds flew victory patterns around each other, celebrating not just their freedom, but the birth of something new. The Empire had ruled through fear, control, and rigid order. Humanity had shown the galaxy a different way. Unity through freedom, strength through adaptation, and victory through cooperation. A new age was dawning in the galaxy, and it had begun because humanity refused to kneel.